The third of the 5 core bug out bag essentials is going to be your survival knife. A survival knife is one area of preparedness that you definitely do not want to skimp on. You can kind of fudge as far as your pricing on different packs and different gear, but a survival knife is something that you need to trust your life to, and you don't want to buy a cheap one. The first survival knife that you're going to want to consider is what's considered a bolt knife. This is a K-Bar BK2. This is one of the first knives I bought when I started preparing. It has a very thick, heavy spine to the blade. And I thought that would be great for long-term survival. It would last a long time. I could chop small saplings with it. Weighs almost a pound, which is way too heavy for a bolt knife. And the other thing is you don't want to dual purpose your knives. Don't carry some big, long, machete-looking Bowie knife. If you need a machete, buy a machete. Keep this for your all-purpose survival knife. Now, what I recommend, the Cold Steel SRK. Stands for Search and Rescue Knife. This is kind of the gold standard at this point in survival and preparedness knife. The important thing when you're looking for a bolt knife is going to be to make sure that it has a full tang. What you do not want to purchase is the good old-fashioned survival knives. And you know what I'm talking about. They're the ones with the round handles and they got the compass on the bottom. Those are not a good long-term knife. I don't care who makes it or how much you pay for it. What you want is full tang construction. If you look at this knife, the blade, metal, goes all the way down through the handle. With those other survival knives, they have a small pin down here that holds them into that hollow handle. It is just a matter of time before that knife breaks. Again, I don't care who makes it. This knife is going to take a lot of abuse. It's going to be what you use to split logs with, pry, heavy duty cutting. So do not skimp on this particular knife. Again, I recommend the Cold Steel SRK. There are lots of options out there for you. The Cold Steel SRK is probably the best budget model. You can pick it up for around $75 on Amazon. You can easily pay $200 for a long-term survival knife, but you don't have to. A couple more things you want to consider when picking a bolt knife is the shape of the blade. Now, you can get a drop point, a clip point, or a straight back design. I would not recommend some of the fancier blade shapes or a Tonto blade shape. Not against it, but it just makes it harder to sharpen those types of blades out in the field. You want something that's easily sharpened. On that same note, you want to skip blades that have serrations along the base. Their serrations along the base are not, you're not going to cut through anything significant with those serrations. You don't want to dual purpose your knife. Again, if you need a machete, buy a machete. If you need a saw, carry a small Leatherman saw or a silky folding saw for cutting limbs. Do not try and use that serrations on your blade for that purpose. It just makes it, once those serrations get dull, it's going to make it a lot harder to sharpen that section of your knife. You can't do it with a simple sharpening stone. You have to have special tools to sharpen those. So skip the serrations and just get a straight edge design. Another important consideration where all knives are concerned is the quality of the steel itself. You want to look for a high carbon steel, something that's easy to sharpen, maintains an edge for a long time. The next type of knife that you're definitely going to have is an EDC or everyday carry pocket knife. One of the main important aspects to a pocket knife is the fact that you can easily take it out of your pocket and open it one-handed without having to use two hands to open the blade. There's going to be a lot of instances where you're holding something in one hand and you're not going to be able to use that other hand to help open the blade. So you also want to make sure you have a good pocket clip on your knife that you can keep in the edge of your pocket, pull it out one-handed, and easily open it. I prefer assisted opening blades on a pocket knife. That is not a switch blade, that's not a spring-loaded blade, but check your local laws to make sure assisted opening is legal in your area. Another thing you want to consider with a pocket knife is to make sure it has some kind of grippy texture to the frame. That way it does not slip out of your hands if your hands are wet or covered in blood. There are thousands of manufacturers of pocket knives. I would recommend sticking with one of the big name manufacturers. Obviously you have manufacturers like Benchmade, and zero tolerance up at the top echelon of the knife market. You can pay $200–300 for a pocket knife if you have the finances to do that. If you do not, I highly recommend the Kershaw brand. I've been carrying them for years. I've got 3 different models here. They all have the quick assist opening on them, and I've had them for many years and they've all held up great. My highest recommendation on a budget is going to be this one. This is the Kershaw Camber. What makes this one special is the fact that it has S30V steel. That's an American-made steel. The last thing to consider when picking a pocket knife is to not try and get too large of a knife. Again, don't try and dual purpose your pocket knife and make it into a bolt knife. You don't need a 6-inch blade on a pocket knife. You don't need a butterfly knife. What you need is a blade somewhere in the range of 3 to 3¼ maybe 3½ inches long. This is good for smaller projects, cutting 550 cord, whittling on something. If you get a blade too large, it's going to make some of that more intricate knife work difficult. Another must-have for all your bug out bags would be a quality multi-tool. Even in the name, multi-tool, it explains how this tool can be used for multiple projects. I don't have any serious objections to whichever brand you buy, except don't go cheap and don't get crazy. What I mean by don't get crazy is you do not need everything in the kitchen sink in your multi-tool. You don't need an eyebrow brush, you don't need an ice pick or a set of mini wrenches. Keep it practical. Here's what I recommend in a good multi-tool, and you should pay at least around $40 for a good multi-tool. A straight edge knife. You want a good straight edge knife. Again, you do not need serrations on this, because you should also have a serrated blade knife in there as well. And that is for small, and you want that a small aggressive tooth blade, which would be a backup to your silky saw. I want both a straight tip screwdriver and a Phillips head screwdriver for multiple screw heads. A can opener is a great thing as a backup to my P38, and a file to sharpen the serrations on my saw blade when I need to do so. I also want the back section of the pliers to act as a set of wire cutters. Besides that, you don't really need anything else. Anything else is superficial. Stay away from the little mini scissors that you have on there. There's just really no practical purpose for any of that. My personal recommendation that has all of those tools combined would be the Leatherman Sidekick model, which you can find for around $45.